Welcome to Coal Nation, the official podcast of the American Coal Council. Join us as we dive into the critical conversations shaping the future of coal. From industry experts to policymakers, we're exploring coal's essential role in America's energy, economy, and global trade. Whether it's powering communities, driving innovation, or securing strong global economies, coal is at the heart of it all. ACC, proud to be American, proud to be coal. Coal Nation starts now.
Welcome to Coal Nation, the podcast where we bring your conversations at the heart of America's coal industry, where energy meets community and innovation drives resilience. I'm your host, Emily Arthun, CEO of the American Coal Council. Today, I have the great pleasure of sitting down with Matt Mackowiak, Director of Government Affairs at Core Natural Resources. Matt's work sits right here at the crossroads of energy policy, coal innovation, and public perception. He's one of the driving forces behind the Coal Hard Truth and the Not So Fast campaign, an effort to bring clarity and balance to the national conversation around fossil fuels, renewable energy, and America's energy transition. We'll explore how this campaign challenges assumptions, why now is such a critical moment for the coal industry, and what the future holds for U.S. energy leadership. Let's get started. Matt, it's great to be here today in headquarters of Core Natural Resources. Excited to talk to you on Coal Nation podcast about the Coal Hard Truth and just maybe a little bit more than just that too.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great. So I think let's just jump right in. We've known each other for quite a while now. Exciting. We get to cross paths a lot in the advocacy front and support each other in the coal industry and what we're doing. But let's talk about how the Coal Hard Truth got started and your thoughts on where it's going.
Yeah, glad you brought that up. Several years ago, it kind of all started when our CEO, Jimmy Brock, wanted to get the word out on why coal matters, why it is going to matter in the future, why we can't dispense with it, and just combat some of the narrative that's out there that says that coal is dead and the industry isn't needed anymore. And so we put together that campaign, the coalhardtruth.com. The idea being, this was a few years ago, but it's still ongoing now. The idea being that we wanted to educate policymakers, business leaders, just the general public also on the benefits of coal, the energy industry as a whole as well, and try to combat that narrative, put the facts out there and have people, allow people to have a resource to go to that they can do their own research, make their own decisions, put some analysis into it and make their own decisions on energy policy. And so we put information out there that's from a variety of sources, but all primary sources. Everything is fact checked. It's going to stand up to any type of other third-party fact check that you throw at it. We know that there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on these facts, but we pull things from IEA, from the Department of Energy, from all kinds of reports, from official sources, just to try to make it as credible as possible, get the actual data and the facts and information out there so that, again, people can make their own decisions on energy, but coal in particular.
What I found really interesting about the campaign is you put it to what needed to happen on social media. It's like those 10-second spots, the graphics that are kind of fun and playful, and hopefully they're grabbing the attention. What has the success been when you look at the program from where it started to where it is today?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty successful. As you mentioned, we put a lot of those big graphics in there. We call them big data points. And so there's statistics that we throw out there. It's just you'll see it for a couple of seconds, but it's really impactful information. We've reached millions of impressions through our social media channels, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We've been on several different platforms. And so it really helps to put out some easily digestible, quick facts that really stick with people. One of them, for example, being the fact that, about a third of the world's power, 35% still comes from coal, which is still the single largest source of energy generation in the entire world. That is a single fuel source. There's still also 774 million people worldwide without access to electricity. So when you put that stuff out there in front of people, a couple of seconds on social media as they're scrolling, those facts are really impactful and they help to educate these people on these topics in the energy space. So it's really helpful.
Remind me to come back to, we'll call it energy poverty
Yeah,
and have that discussion. But I really want to talk about, yesterday on the ACC channels, we shared Origins of Coal. It was about a 4-minute video about coal. What do you think the one misconception of coal is?
I think that the misconception is that it's a dying industry. That you know, maybe now I think people think that, oh, we're seeing a resurgence. Coal is back. When the reality is, we've always been here, and we always need to be here because of, you look at various things like energy demand going up, obviously, infrastructure development, steel, concrete, all these things that require coal. You know, we're obviously breaking through that misconception, saying, hey, look, we've always been here. Demand for coal has never been higher globally, and we are going to continue to be here for several years for the foreseeable future.
It's so interesting. I read an article yesterday and it was talking about winter, and it was funny packing to come to Pittsburgh. It was warmer in Wyoming than it was in Pittsburgh. And so I'm trying to figure out what to pack and looking at the news and everything. But winter hit here a little bit this week, and furnaces went up and
Yeah.
demand goes up. And there was an article about NERC talking about we're going to need coal through the winter because it is that stable energy source. But the other one that's coming out is it's affordable, not just secure, but it's affordable. And so when you talk about coal's always been there, after cold snaps and different things, we always see that coal was there at the end of the day to get us through those snaps. What are your comments on that?
Yeah, that's why it's considered a reliable baseload source of power. It's obviously not like wind and solar, which are intermittent. It depends on the weather, it depends on if the sun's shining, wind's blowing. Coal is always available. It's dependable. The United States has more coal reserves than any other country in the world. So we have, the most abundant reserves. It's an abundant source, which makes it cheaper, very affordable. But also you can store it on site. You can store weeks worth of coal supply at a power plant so that if something happens, you have a spike in demand or something like this cold snap that happened in this area pretty early for this year. You have those coal stockpiles available. You can just ramp up energy production as needed and fill in those gaps if you have, any supply shortfalls there.
Absolutely. It truly is such a diverse fuel source
Absolutely.
for the country. Talk a little bit about how do you combat, because this is the thing that we talk about is people wanted to shut down coal plants, but they didn't understand that coal's there, has to be there to keep a powerful, safe grid. But when you started to run the campaign, talk a little bit about how you had to deal with the naysayers that are out there on the coal and what kind of strategy you used for that.
Yeah, that was somewhat difficult. I mean, we saw everything under the sun when it came to insults that were thrown at us, wishing death on us or people that worked here, just the industry itself. Above all, there was I think a lack of a deep understanding of how energy works. We have people that think that we are out to destroy the planet and we're against electrification and EVs and all these things. And, missing the point that you're going to need something to provide the energy for those things. If you want to increase electrification of appliances, vehicles, you name it, you need more power, not the same amount, especially not less, as you're kind of shouting to close all of these fossil fuel power plants down and demolish them and replace them with wind and solar. That doesn't even come close to solving the problem if you want to increase, again, all these electrification of all these things that they're using right now. Also, when it comes to AI data centers, demand is only going up for electricity. So when we put the facts out there, you throw these stats out that are factual. Again, we've run these through a fine tooth comb to make sure that everything is accurate. When you put the facts out there saying, look, here's what the demand projections in electricity look like. Here's the available capacity that we have now. Here's our availability to meet that capacity, to meet that demand with this capacity. It's not looking good. Put those facts out there. I think it's self-explanatory and it really speaks for itself. It's been really hard for them to argue once you get those out there. So initially we did have a lot of pushback, a lot of naysayers, a lot of insults hurled at us. But again, they can say all they want. Look at the facts. Yeah. The data is there. It proves our point for us. We are not going anywhere we can't.
I certainly have appreciated that because for a long time, we didn't tell our story. It takes there's a certain level of grit and bravery that has to happen when you put yourself out like that. The the campaign has, I think, been successful because you didn't stop when the insults started to come. You powered forward and you knew that this is something that had to happen. And on the other side, now this is a reliable resource that people can go to and they can see it that way. I have always liked when people back in the day were against coal plants and they would throw the picture up of the coal plant with the water vapor coming out
Blowing
and
water vapor.
the water vapor coming out and everything. And just as a note, Tuesday night in Wyoming, I think everybody saw Northern Lights this week and how incredible it is. My place in Wyoming, I live 3 miles from an active coal mine and I live 5 miles from Dry Fork Power Station. And if the narrative was real and you were talking about pollution of coal mines, you shouldn't have been able to see those Northern Lights. And I have to tell you, they were just absolutely stunning. But I think that's the piece that we have to tell, right, is that it's water vapor. It's not. And there's all these mitigations for environmental purposes. Like, we are the true environmentalists. We're doing reclaim. That's really important to the communities. Thoughts on that and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think there's just across the board a fundamental misunderstanding of how this all works, how a power plant works. As you said, the clouds that you see coming out of these cooling towers, it's water vapor. Everyone always points to that, says, look at all this pollution going into the atmosphere. I hate to see this. It's like, okay, you should probably understand better how these things work, how the process works, what the coal plant's actually doing. So, we do our best to try to educate people with those topics, how power plants work, how power is made, but also just that, what are the alternatives that we have? Okay, everything has trade-offs. Consider the trade-off, consider the benefits of certain things, and there are a lot to coal-fired generation. Consider the trade-offs, consider the drawbacks, of course, but there are unintended consequences for every policy decision that you make if you don't think about them thoroughly enough, right? So as we try to take these coal megawattages off the grid because of perceived pollution coming out of the cooling towers that's water vapor, there needs to be more education around that, saying, like, look, you might think this is bad. Think about the alternatives. Think about the bad consequences that we could get from not thinking about these policy decisions thoroughly enough. There's trade-offs there. You got to consider that.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about this program is when I took on this role and started in the coal business, I'll tell you, I was ignorant. I thought thermal coal was thermal coal. I didn't really put together that there's thermal coal, there's metallurgical coal. Two very distinct product lines are coming out of both of them. And what I love about this is you're actually saying, here's all the uses of coal. It's not just for energy. Could you talk a little bit about what else is out there for coal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because there's so much more that we use it for, especially from core standpoint. We're exporting our coal to 25 countries, 5 continents. They're all using it for different things. Primarily it's in the industrial space. A lot of these nations are using it for thermal production still. Concrete and steel, cement production. I think those are probably the biggest ones in the industrial space. I think 75% of global steel production still relies on coal, either as a feedstock or as a heat source.
And it sounds like it's not going away.
It's not going away.
It's not going away.
I mean, global demand, like I said, it's never been higher.
Yeah.
2024, I think we almost hit 9 billion tons globally. It was 8.79, something like that. But that was a record-breaking year. It broke the record held by the year previously. 2023 was the record-breaking year, and so that continues to go up. That's just as a result of these nations that are industrializing, and they need coal not only for the power to support industrialization, but also the raw materials, concrete, steel, cement, all these brick making, all these things that coal is still used for and has to be used for, because at the rate that they're industrializing, there's really nothing else that can provide that, fill that gap for them to be able to do that. So that's just a couple of things. I mean, it's also traditionally been used for things like water filtration and fertilizers. A lot of that comes from coal, and other parts, especially in other parts of the world too. But, we also have an innovations group at CORE, which I think you had Dan Connell from our team.
We did.
A few weeks ago, which was a few months ago. awesome stuff that we're doing there too. And that was a great episode.
Well, it was great to be out there and just see what is happening with coal. It's not. eh, A lot of people, you said it earlier, want to see it as a relic. It's not a relic. I mean, it is
Yeah,
groundbreaking and moving forward at light speeds. I mean, we look at what's going on at the Innovation Center, and man, that is some cool stuff out there. But in addition to that, we're seeing the extraction of REEs from it, which let's talk a little bit about. Did we celebrate the day that metallurgical coal got on the critical minerals list?
yeah, that was a big deal. I mean, it was. I think it needed to happen. It's such an integral part of industry right now, especially globally. It was a huge thing to see come out of this administration. Really loved. And and look, even if you think, right, we should replace coal-fired generation, take it out of the electricity mix altogether, let's replace it with wind and solar, right? You have metallurgical coal that comes in to supply the infrastructure needed for that kind of stuff. Think about, let's just say you wanted to rely on wind power for half of the electricity globally, to produce half the world's electricity. That's going to require about 2 billion tons of coal to do that, just in the raw materials that you need to produce the windmills. And then, to actually make the blades, you need like 1.5 billion tons of oil, or billion barrels of oil. So even if we're not talking about power here, the fact that you need it for every single other thing to build civilizations, that's what makes us important. That's what's causing the demand to rise. That's why we're still here. That's why we keep going.
Absolutely. It's interesting you talk about that. I went to Laramie, or Cheyenne, actually Cheyenne this week. And when you drive down from Gillette to Cheyenne, there's a lot of windmills. And I don't think people take or appreciate how large this is. So when you talk about billions of tons, it truly is. And the foundation that has to go into those bases to sustain those windmills, it's incredible.
Yeah.
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 Eh, So even if we were to move away from coal in the States, which I don't think you and I are going to see that in our lifetime, for sure. The reason we were in Cheyenne is to export coal, and it was very interesting. Wyoming had sent a delegation over, and they went to Japan and Taiwan just recently, and those countries are asking, "How can I get coal?" Because they want it for their energy programs. I mean, talk about. I'm sure you have some insights on. Talk about how other countries are using American coal and why it's so important for their economies.
I think one of the biggest reasons, first of all, one of the biggest things that we're proud of at Core, we mine some of the highest quality coal in the world. So right under us right now, we have high calorific value thermal coal, high CV thermal. That when we mine that, it has some of the highest BTU levels, which means higher energy output per volume, per mass, basically from other coals. So it burns more efficiently, comparatively less emissions when you burn it compared to other coals throughout the world. So it's very high quality. Same thing with most of the other coals that we mine at Core, but that's just the state of things here in the United States. We have some high quality product,
Uh-huh.
and it's very desirable overseas. From all these other nations. Not to mention, I think in the United States we do it more safely, more efficiently, more environmentally friendly than a lot of other countries mining right now. So I think a lot of other nations that are buying from us appreciate that too. Our safety rate. We strive to be, do business in the safest way possible. It's one of our core values. Safety is is like our first core value. Our CEO says it's not a value; it's a way of life.
That's right.
And so we operate consistently, trying to put safety first, no matter what we do. And I think that again, that's something that our customers really appreciate as well.
It's amazing when we look back at the history, and coal really built the states when we look at it. And whether it was thermal for energy, whether it was metallurgical for industry, coal stood the United States up. And I think there's a lot of countries out there, if we go back to the conversation about people without energy. And when you hear these stories, I have a board member whose wife was raised overseas, and they had a limited amount of energy at their house, right? And when it went out, she had to go down to the convenience store to do her homework. And I think about that and I'm like, shame on us for not helping helping build these countries up with the energy that we have and the processes and the technology that we can provide them to do it better than when we started.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's only fair to allow these developing nations that are trying to get to where we are to be able to do that in the most affordable way possible, to do that in the way that works best for them. One of the easiest ways to do that is through coal. I don't think that we should be telling them that they can't use a fuel source that built us up, got us through 2 world wars, through arguably 2 industrial revolutions, and turn around and say, no, sorry, you can't do the same thing that we did. I mean, who are we to say that?
I agree. I was having this conversation, and I love Wyoming's Congressman Hageman was in her office probably a year and a half ago. And we were talking about just how important coal is. And of course, she's very supportive of our industry. And we talked about where would the women in the United States be if it hadn't been for coal. And if you think, and coal energy, just that piece of it, you think about when energy became accessible to everybody and you started seeing washing machines and dishwashers and the things that were manually done at home that allowed women the ability to get out and be more self-sufficient, you may say, in different things. And I think that's the piece that's sometimes missing is the opportunities that have been afforded to people that have this energy source.
Yeah. I mean, it progresses societies.
Yeah.
It's one of the easiest, most affordable ways to do that.
Outstanding. So, Matt, we always do fast 5 questions. So before we take a break, I just want to go through and give you 5 fast things, 5 fast questions so you can answer. What are the first words that come to mind when you hear coal?
Versatile.
Versatile. I love it. A favorite place you've ever visited that was powered by American energy?
Man, probably one of our huge cities, New York, Vegas, Chicago.
I love that answer because you go stand in Times Square, right? And you see all those lights. Yeah.
Think about how that's brought to you by coal.
Brought to
in some percentage, right?
Yeah. ACC used to do a conference in New York in December. And so it was my second conference, but we went to New York. It was one that we brought back after COVID. And it was in Times Square. It was in the New York marquee downtown. And you look out from your window and you see all those lights. That was the first thing I thought of. Coal energy.
It has to come from somewhere.
Comes from somewhere, right? Okay. We've had a lot of policy changes this year and a lot of support from the administration. What is one policy right now that you think could make a big difference in the coal industry?
One policy, I think, anything having to do with taking away the regulations that hamper our energy production in any way, that stops us from becoming energy independent, energy dominant.
Absolutely.
Those regulations.
Energy dominant. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What inspired you to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just love talking about energy. I never thought that I would. I never was into it as a kid or growing up in high school, anything like that. I'm just living in this area, Southwestern PA, worked for a local congressman, and it was always front and center as far as the issues that mattered to this area, right? And just growing up in this area, you start to understand the legacy, the history that coal has, the fossil fuels have. Natural gas is big around here too. And so it was something that I really wanted to learn more about. And this was a perfect opportunity to not only learn more, but also spread the knowledge of what I learned growing up with other people as well, policymakers, but not just limited to that, to others as well.
So I'm just going to digress and then we'll get to the last question. But like Wyoming, when you look at Wyoming coal, it's relatively new as compared to Eastern coal and how long it's been here. And I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to go see one of your competitors' properties. But I was with a board member, and as we were driving around, he was like, and that was a steel mill, and this has been this. And the history here and the pride of what has gone on in Pennsylvania and coal is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's special.
It's quite a legacy. Yeah, it's a great place to grow up.
Yeah, and I think from my understanding, it's being embraced more and more every day.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So the last thing I'm going to ask you, personal, I know you have a small family. So what's your favorite thing to do on the weekend with the family?
Just be outside, hanging out with them. We go for walks. There's a park pretty close to our house. But my older son has been getting into soccer a lot, so he kicks ball around all the time outside, learning how to throw, learning how to hit balls with a baseball bat. And then the little one follows us. He crawls around everywhere, tries to follow us everywhere. So just being outside anywhere there's enough space to just run, kick things, throw things, not worry about breaking anything. It's that they love that, and it's just fun to be with.
Yeah, two boys is not being able to break things maybe in the house. That's a good thing to be outside.
Yeah,
for.
well, that's why we got. That's why we got outside.
Yeah,
It gets
yeah,
harder this time of year when it gets darker, but we'll find ways.
absolutely. Well, we'll be right back after a short break.
Like the sun and the trees and the oceans. They were given to us by the grace of nature. They are Earth's natural resources, essential, not just for our survival, but for our flourishing. And while they've been with us since the beginning of time, they are now a part of us, a birthright, inseparable from who we are as human beings. And that's the thing about resources. They come with a choice. And what they become brings meaning to all that surrounds us, lifting our lives, fueling our freedoms, and sustaining our future. Indispensable, abundant, and beautiful, taking the shape of our highest ideals. We are core natural resources, and we are here to build a better tomorrow.
Matt, it's great to be back after that short break, and sure had a fun time so far. Let's have a few more questions here. I think it's been so great. If I go back to April of this year, and actually I got to sit by CEO Jimmy Brock during the EO signing, which was really great, and got to talk to him about, did you ever see this? Did you ever think this was going to happen? And we had that conversation. But what do you think is the best part about for the people in the industry for this year? Talk about what you're seeing with the core employees and the feeling here.
April 8th, 25, I think. Was a good day.
Yeah, that was a good
It was
day.
a good day. It was great to be in that room in the White House. One of the things that was most important out of that day, there were a lot of executive orders signed that are going to help the industry really reinvigorate, production in the whole industry here in the States. Also, it really gave our miners hope. We had several miners up on that stage right behind the president as he was talking about coal, handed one of our guys his prepared remarks that he had in his hand, just gave it to him. And so it gave those guys a lot of hope, a lot of pride, even more so than they have already in what they do. Just showing them that there is attention coming back to the industry. There is a spotlight on us now. We're being recognized for what we do, and they are being recognized for what they do every day. So I think that's been hugely helpful, just from a sentimental standpoint. I mean, I think they loved that. Really encouraging. Aside from that too, it's such a pivotal time because we have these executive orders that are being signed that are going out to help the industry. But there's also a renewed focus from a policy standpoint too. Taking a look at these regulations is another thing. The EPA is looking at old regulations, trying to, rework these things. How do we make sure that we can preserve our coal plants so we have enough electricity? What needs to happen from a policy front, from a regulatory front, to be able to make sure that we can preserve this industry because we still need it?
So when you talk about policy front and everything, do you feel like there'll be an equalization between energy sources at some point in the future, that everybody will be treated on the same field? Because if I just look simply at the regulations around coal mining, coal utilities, and different things versus other energy sources, there's a little bit of discrepancy between the two and the level of regulations on the industries. Do you feel like there's going to be a level set between all of that?
Possibly. I don't want to predict too much in the future. I think
That's fair.
I think what's helpful though in the energy space is that energy sources do compete. They compete to be the more predominant one. They compete to be more affordable, more reliable, to try to win spots in the queues of all of our independent systems operators across the country. I think that's helpful. I think that brings costs down. It allows us to have a diverse energy space. At core, we would say we support all the above, but really we support all that works. There are different energy sources that are going to work at different times and different places. I think that's helpful to have that diversity, much like anything else. You want a diverse investment portfolio, right? You want a diverse energy framework as well, so that you can draw from multiple different sources. Because if you don't, you do that at your own peril.
It is a peril, right?
Yeah.
Having different, and we see energy policies that have gone throughout. If we just go to Puerto Rico, most recent one that happened, not Puerto Rico, Portugal, and the issue that happened there with the blackout on their grid and everything, and throwing those, we saw it in Germany, throwing all the resources into renewables and not having that backup. What happens if backup is detrimental to the society?
Both really strong examples. What I'll say about each of those is, the Iberian Peninsula issue. That was April, May of this year, late April, something like that. Spain was very proud that they had reached over 90% of their generation coming from solar, which for a country like that, they get a lot of sun. Probably makes sense. I think what people have realized from that is that wind and solar being intermittent sources, they don't generate inertia, which was the problem there, because in these power grids, you're constantly seeing differences in fluctuation. Sometimes there's high frequencies, low frequency rather than fluctuation. Sorry about that. But with those differences in frequency, the only thing that can really allow the grid to adjust to that is the inertia of those spinning turbines that you get from fossil fuel plants. They didn't have that in Spain and Portugal, and so the lights went out for an extended period of time. A few people died because of that. It's tragic. It didn't have to happen that way. On the Germany example too, I mean, really, when we looked at the invasion of Ukraine, the Russian-Ukrainian war, what happened in the immediate aftermath? Russia cut natural gas supplies from Western Europe, Germany included. What did Germany do? They brought back their coal plants. Now, they were able to do that because whenever they mothballed their coal plants, they didn't demolish them. They kept them around. They didn't use them, but they kept them around. It was really expensive to ramp them back up, but they did it. They could. It was expensive, but they got it. And they needed that electricity, right? What we do in the United States and that Germany doesn't do is, as soon as we shut a coal plant down, we try to demolish it. So that's the biggest difference there. Those examples, both, those European examples, really helpful to look at.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've seen the resources just completely be gone. We can't ramp them back up. And what we're seeing right now is you're actually seeing coal plants being asked to stay online past their projected retirement dates because of the increase that we're seeing, primarily driven out of data centers.
Primarily, yeah. Even just to try to meet current demand, we've been seeing issues over the last several years through the interconnection grids. PJM saw some issues a couple of years ago. Their auction after the 2-year hiatus increased power prices by like 830% in the northeastern region of the United States. MISO, which is the mid-continent of the United States, their recent auction this past summer saw like a $660 per megawatt day price for electricity, I believe, which was 20 times higher than last year, 60 times higher than 2 years ago. I mean, these are huge numbers, like incredible increases. So that's just based on current demand. And now they project out 3 years. So I think that they are considering the AI boom in there. But that demand's only going to get higher. I think it's going to get greater. AI data centers are propelling us well into, very high numbers of energy demand over the next couple of years. 15 to 20% increase probably by 2030.
So when we talk about that and the increase in use and what we're seeing coming out of the MISO and PGM and different, we know Germany had an increase in electrical prices when they started moving to renewables, so much so they actually saw manufacturing leave the country. And some of those came to the States because we had affordable energy. And there's this ongoing debate about renewables being cheaper than coal and coal being expensive. And if you read right now, it's costing so much money to keep coal plants online and everything. I think when we go back to what the Coal Hard Truth is trying to say and dispel those myths, this is kind of a myth. Like, coal is affordable and it's secure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, coal's affordable mainly because we have so much of it and it's dependable. so you can use it round the clock.
Mhm.
I think that we seem to be seeing an increase in demand for thermal coal production in the United States, which is surprising. But given this policy environment right now, maybe not as surprising, but that's encouraging for pricing too. A lot more domestic production for our domestic coal is going to be helpful for all of us here. But I think when you try to compare the pricing, the
Mhm.
costs of these various forms of electricity, you have to take subsidies into account because for decades, we had subsidies that were placed on wind and solar generation. None of that was placed on coal generation. Coal plants are aging out, and so their maintenance and upkeep is more expensive by and large, right? So if you could find a way to tackle that problem, it would probably get even cheaper for
Mhm.
coal. But there's a lot of factors to consider that go into that pricing. Depending on what metric you look at, you could probably make an argument, that one's more expensive than the other. It should be the right metric.
Yeah. I think that's you make numbers say anything you want them to
Exactly. Yeah, you
say.
can make exactly.
Yeah. I look at Wyoming that has a very balanced portfolio of energy. We have coal, we have natural gas, we have wind.
And
Yeah. And as I'm reading stories about the increase in Americans' electricity, I actually feel pretty insulated that as a state, we've done a really good job of balancing the needs of our consumers.
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about misconception of clean coal? At one point in one of our videos, we talked about modern coal and we were chastised. Well, coal's not modern. It's been around for 100 years. I think that's the same thing that when we talk about clean coal is it's how we use it and how it's being applied.
Yeah.
It's not that the coal itself has changed, but it's how we've gotten better at our jobs. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things involved there. I think first, number one, over the last several decades, a lot of coal plants have chosen to modernize their technology. There's scrubbers, selective catalytic reduction systems, there's baghouses, all these things that they've put into coal plants to reduce emissions, make things cleaner, run more efficiently, get their heat rates down, and try to make them, just better overall, cleaner plants than they were. But then aside from that, yeah, the alternative uses, we can use it for more things now. And we're just, I think, scratching the surface, especially at Core. Our innovations team is looking into a lot of these uses. We can use it for composite decking material, construction materials, aerospace and defense tooling capabilities, battery production, all of these things that you can use coal for. And again, we have a lot of it. And so there are all these things that we can use it for. It would be clean uses, right? I think it's all clean because it's definitely cleaner than anybody else does it, and it's cleaner than we've ever done it in the United States.
One of the things I really like about coal is there's a lot of it and it's accessible. And I think the piece that when I went into this, I had a background in metals, understand the permitting processes that go on with metals and everything. And I don't believe that the American citizen realizes how much we export our metals to be processed somewhere else, but we're also getting metals from other places. And when I talk about metals, it's copper, it's gold, silver, uh, are rare earths that are important for batteries and things. And you talked a little bit about the batteries. I don't think people understand we've got this resource that's permitted, that's being mined today while we have to work through the regulations to mine the metals. We've got coal and how it can really be effective in those processes. They talk a little bit about the batteries and how important that is.
Yeah, the batteries that's hopefully going to be a huge development. To consider what goes into a battery. You have an anode and a cathode. Usually for anodes, you use graphite, whether it be naturally current graphite or synthetic graphite. About 98% of battery grade graphite comes from China or that supply chain area, right? So given how much we use batteries for and how much we will be using batteries for in the future, if you consider all the other energy applications that we're going to have, especially in the defense sector, I think it would be a very good strategic maneuver to try to position ourselves to be able to produce our own battery materials. You can use coal as a battery anode material to effectively replace synthetic graphite. We're working on that right now. We have a partnership in Florida. It's called CBAT, and we produce a material called obsidia. It's like a silicon oxycarbide coal-based material, like a black powder looking stuff. that goes into the anodes and batteries, all sourced from our Appalachian mines straight down to Florida. That means the entire supply chain for that anode is United States based. It's all domestically produced. And there's a possibility that we can start making batteries using our coal that's right under our feet. Yeah, it is. I mean, and sky's the limit there. Like I said, I think we're only scratching the surface with all the stuff that we can do with it.
Every day we're really intelligent people working on this everywhere. I mean, we got them in Kentucky, we've got it at Oak Ridge, we've got it at the University of Wyoming. I mean, people are looking at what can we use coal for, because we have just an incredible amount of coal. We talked a little bit before the podcast started about better collaboration between the fossil fuel industries. And how can we work together in shaping America's balanced energy mix? I mean, we've heard about the explosion of energy needs, and you and I are both on the same page that there's a spot for everybody. Talk a little bit about the coordinated efforts of all energy sources to meet the demands of American grid.
I think everyone in the energy industry, particularly everyone in the fossil fuel industry, wants the same thing. We all want to have cheap, reliable, affordable energy that is dispatchable when we need it. And we want to be able to provide all of that from our own resources that we have in the United States. We have incredible coal resources. We have incredible oil and gas deposits the United States can have access to. So I don't think that we can afford to start competing too hard amongst ourselves and trying to push each other out of the market, because again, it's an expanding market. Demand is going up every year for electricity. So there is a place we all can still fit in here, and we can even grow our production because we're going to have to do that. So we don't need to fight amongst ourselves. I think that we all want the same thing. We can all stay on message that, look, we want to have that dependable power. We want to be that dependable power for the United States.
For the one person that doesn't understand why it's important to domestically produce our own energy, domestically produce the products that go into, can you talk a little bit about just educating of why it's so important to do this in the United States and not import our energy from other places?
Again, look at the example of Germany. Look at the example of Europe, all of Western Europe. If you depend on a foreign power for a majority of your electricity, or at least some portion of your electricity, anything can happen regarding that nation that could have your supplies cut of electricity. Western Europe had Russian natural gas cut because of the issues that were going on in Ukraine. If you depend on another nation for your electricity, we suffer from a national security standpoint because we do not have control over our energy grid. We don't have the power of managing that ourselves. If we're taking sources from other countries all across the world that maybe don't share our values, they don't share our same ideas that we have. I think that's a dangerous position to get in, because you can effectively get held hostage over something that's happening overseas. If other nations control your energy supply, you get into a pretty bad situation there.
Absolutely. Shifting gears a little bit, I love this industry. I love our people. I love what the industry does for communities, how it supports schools and nonprofits and different things. Can you talk a little bit about CORE's involvement in the communities and what you're doing? Because it's fun.
Yeah, we're proud of Core Cares. It's our foundation, Core Cares Foundation, that we, through the foundation, we give to the local communities, try to stay within our footprint. Really, any and every cause that is going to better our community from, emergency response standpoint, to, high school sports, charity events, blood drives, all of these things that are going to help the people that live and work in our area, especially, but also just those in need that we can afford to help as well. We love to do that. We take care of the people that are local to us, that really appreciate what we do for them, that what coal does for them, and that really just need a little hand occasionally. So we're happy to do that.
You're certainly leading the way on a lot of fronts for the industry. And if we go back to the campaign, the Coal Hard Truth, and looking at how successful it's been, knowing that we need to be on social media and different things, how do we get the younger generations enthused about coal, enthused about what we do, not just the mining of the coal, but there's a supply chain. We know there's a workforce issue. It's not just in our industry, it's across the board. But how do we get people enthused to say, look, these are great jobs, they're fun, they're not what they used to be, not what you think about. And what are you doing on that front?
I think we just have to convince them that, we have to show them that this industry is going to be around for a long time. There's a lot of demand for jobs here. I mean, if we want to keep mining at the same levels that we're doing, we're going to continue to need labor to support that. And these are jobs, that are a lot of times very well paying. If you came out of high school and wanted to become a coal miner in Pennsylvania, for example, the average annual pay for an underground miner in Pennsylvania, like right out of school, you could be making $100,000. And that goes a long way. I mean, a lot of these guys, we have everyone underground. We have everyone from high school graduates to PhDs, everything in between. There's a place for engineers. There's a place for, like I said, high school graduates. There's a place for people that are interested in the trades, everything. It's such a versatile industry. Like I said, that's one of the first words that comes to mind for me is everything about it is versatile. All the jobs that we need, everything like that, you can find it here in this industry. Like I said, we are in no way going anywhere anytime soon. These are really well-paying jobs. They're localized jobs. Sky's the limit.
Absolutely. You can stay in a community that is going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
When you have the coal industry right there. Let's look ahead 5 to 10 years. And what does success look like for the Coal Hard Truth?
I think in that amount of time, if we can convince enough people to just do their own analysis and do their own homework and not throw stones at us when they really don't know the first thing about the industry, I think that we've been successful on that front. And I'm talking people that, that are some of the loudest naysayers to the industry that want to tear us down. If we can just get people to stop and think for a second and just pause and say, well, all right, let me take a look at the facts. At least I'll hear you out and look at the information myself and make a decision. I think that's probably a win for us, just to get you to consider our viewpoint, join the debate in a productive way. Make sure that you're offering evidence for every claim that you make, because we definitely are. And I think that would be a win for us.
There are so many people that truly believe in this industry. And I think we take that for granted because we hear so much against us every day. But as you know, when I travel, usually I have something on that says coal, something that is supporting of the industry. And always I get people thanking us for what we're doing, that truly appreciate us. And I think everybody needs to, especially that work in the industry, needs to know we are proud of what we do, and I'm proud of them. But more importantly, there are more people out there than we probably tend to understand that are proud of us.
Yeah.
We've gone through a lot of things today. Is there something I've missed that we haven't talked about?
I think we could keep talking all day.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the biggest thing is that people know where to find the Coal Hard. Just to go to that website, look at everything that we have there and everything that we present. It's very helpful. You can use a lot of that information as quick little, rebuttal points to people that say that coal is useless right now. I think it's a really helpful site to go to. It's a helpful site to learn things that you might not have known before as well. Even if you've worked in the industry for years, I think there's some stuff on there still that you look at. Wow, I didn't realize that was the case. That really helps to inform the debate going forward for you too. So I'm not talking you specifically. I'm just talking to the audience here, but I think that's probably one of the most important takeaways is just check out the website, coalhardtruth.com, COAL. Sorry for the pun, but it sticks, right?
It does.
Remember it. And I think that's probably the main thing.
And what all socials are you on? I know you're on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We did some stuff on TikTok. And I think you'll see some YouTube ads as well.
Okay. How important, this is one thing I like to tell people, is we can put the content out there and there's lots of content. How important it is to step out of your comfort zone and share.
Like, share, subscribe, all of it. Yeah. I mean, that's how you get the word out. It's one thing to just put these posts out there and it gets maybe a couple of views, right? A couple of likes. But the more you can magnify that, just go out on a limb and just post it, right? Repost it. Like it, share it, favorite it. that helps immensely because we don't necessarily have your audience. We don't have the same audience as the people that are our audience. They have a different audience entirely. So then their audience sees it and it catches on and people start to see what the facts are here and they can learn a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's on us at this point to support our industry and don't shy away from it. Be proud of it.
Be bold, be proud.
Yeah.
Get the info out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we could go on forever.
Mhm.
I think we could. But at this point, I believe we should probably wrap up. All right. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you being here today. Getting to come to the offices here in Cannonsburg. I know, it's great. Yeah, I love it. I can't imagine this is going to be our last podcast. So,
Hope not.
yeah, because I'd really like to see the battery facility in Florida. Yeah, get to see that and tour that and see that innovation because it's going great. But appreciate being here today. Love what Core's doing with the campaign and look forward to seeing what 2026 is bringing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on too. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Had a great, powerful conversation with my friend Matt Mackowiak with Core Natural Resources. It is a reminder that energy progress doesn't mean leaving coal behind, but rather bringing it forward into the next era of innovation, technology, and balance. Matt's work with the Coal Hard Truth highlights just how important it is to tell our industry story with clarity and conviction. It's about facts, not fear, and about recognizing coal's enduring role in powering America's economy, strengthening our communities, and driving responsible energy solutions for the future. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to check out the upcoming edition of the American Coal magazine and our annual Coal Industries Buyer's Guide, both hitting mailboxes this month. You'll find in-depth features, expert insights, and a full directory of the companies shaping the future of coal in the United States. Mark your calendars, because registration is open for the Miami Coal Forum, taking place February 10th through the 12th, 2026 at the Hyatt Regency in Miami. This is the premier gathering for coal industry professionals, from producers and suppliers to utilities, transporters, traders, and end users. Expect expert presentations on market outlooks, regulatory updates, and technological breakthroughs, interactive roundtables, strategic networking events, and one-on-one meeting opportunities, all in a vibrant, world-class venue in the heart of South Florida. Visit AmericanCoalCouncil.org and scroll down to our conference section to learn more and register today. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's been great being with you. I'm Emily Arthun, CEO of the American Coal Council. Thanks for tuning in to Coal Nation, where energy meets community and innovation drives resilience. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Coal Nation, the official podcast of the American Coal Council. Our mission is to share coal's story and showcase its critical role in powering our economy and supporting our way of life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe. The American Coal Council represents members across the entire coal supply chain and advocates tirelessly for our vital industry. There is strength in numbers, and we'd love for you to be part of the conversation. By joining ACC, you gain exclusive access to the latest industry developments, a voice in our work that can benefit your business, and incredible networking opportunities. To learn more, visit www.americancoalcouncil.org. Together, we are shaping the future of coal, and it's exciting. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.